Boom. All right, let's go, Bourbon Quest. Dang it. It's your host, Bourbon Steve. Welcome. So, the last episode I did was around store picks. We were doing some Maker's Mark store picks, some other favorite store picks, anything store. Number one, Buffalo Trace. Granted, it's highly allocated regularly, but then if you can get a store pick of a Buffalo Trace, an Eagle Rare, and Weller Antique 107. Is that the only ones I've gotten? I'm trying to think. Yeah, I've never gotten a Stag Junior store pick. I think the only ones I've ever gotten from Buffalo Trace are your regular Buffalo Trace store picks, which are great. Eagle Rare store picks, Weller Antique, Weller Foolproof store picks. There are supposed to be doing, I think it started last year and maybe only in Kentucky only, but I've not seen anybody do a review or anything on it. They were supposed to be starting to do Stag Junior store picks. So if any of you out there have ever gotten or heard of or seen a Stag Junior store pick, leave a comment, let me know, because those are, I'm pretty sure they started last year and it may have been Kentucky only, but I've yet to hear anybody really do a review or comment on a Stag Junior store pick. But other great store picks, whether it be obviously Russells are right up there, your Old Kirk, we'll talk more about that later. I'm trying to think of what some other great store picks that I have back. One of them that I want to do is a Jack Daniel's single barrel proof store pick, which if you saw the latest video a couple days ago, I did get one that was selected by Chris Fletcher. Wasn't that impressed. I guess maybe I had too high of expectations. I think it was a combination of two things. One, I probably had too high of expectations, and secondly, I think Chris was probably trying to go for a different profile from the regular Jack Daniel's single barrel proof, which is, by the way, freaking amazing. And because I felt like the one I got from Chris was more aged than the regular, like it came off a little bit more oaky, had more of a cherry versus banana. It was still good, I just didn't think it was great. And I think that it was a combination of those two things. One, I had high expectations, and then secondly, I think he was probably going for maybe a more, and although there was no age stated on it, I think the one I got was, maybe 10 years old versus 8 years old, and had just a different profile with more of a cherry versus banana. While it was good, I didn't think it was as great as some of the others that I've had from that lineup. Anyways, enough about that. Go back and watch the latest video. It was on store picks that you can get out there. Support your local liquor stores with their store picks. I'm lucky that I'm in an area that I have at least 4 to 5, and really 4 to 5 go-tos, and there's even more beyond that, depending on what it is I might gravitate to. But I trust those 4 to 5 quite a bit, especially when it comes, like I said, if you go watch the last video, especially when it comes to your big box store picks, your Makers, your Jack, your Wild Turkey, Heaven Hill, whatever. But a lot of the store picks tend to be more craft and regional oriented. Anyways, enough about that. What I want to talk about tonight, Oh, before I do that, if you haven't done so, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I mean, we're we're in the teens to get into 500, and we get a cat. So hit that subscribe button. That does the channel and me a favor. Then do yourself a favor, ring that bell for notifications. That way you don't miss a damn thing here on Bourbon Quest. Smash that like button. That helps the YouTube algorithms. And by all means, leave a comment. But what I want to talk about tonight is, what's your favorite MGP sourced whiskey? And I'm also going to caveat on that I'm probably going to make a few people mad, because I'm in East Tennessee. And granted, Kentucky is the king of bourbon. There's no doubt about it. But you know what's amazing is, I think if you go back and look, and leave a comment, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you go back 20 years, I mean, when you talk about bourbon being, what, 250 years old? Is that right? Like, yeah, 250 years old, give or take some years or some decades. But when you think about it, in Kentucky being the king of bourbon, and correct me if I'm wrong, leave a comment, but if you go back and look 20 years ago, there were maybe 10 distilleries, and these numbers are going to be off slightly because I didn't do research, but I'm just talking in generic numbers. But if you go back and look 20 years ago, there were probably 20, yeah, we'll call it 20 distilleries in Kentucky that produce bourbon. And if I'm not mistaken, today there are over 200. I mean, that's what's happened in 20 years. There's been this bourbon boom. And this is the part that's probably going to make some people mad or whatever, especially if you're in the Midwest or West or whatever. But for me, granted, being in East Tennessee, there's three main places to get your bourbon from, and that is, number one, Kentucky, and then 2 and 3 are Tennessee, which is where I'm at, and Indiana. Outside of that, I've not had a lot of great experiences. I mean, I know they're doing some great stuff out in like Colorado and even the Midwest and Texas. They just haven't evolved to what I like in a whiskey. To me, if it's those three states, if it's not, granted, I don't want to make anybody mad, but you know, if it's a Hill Rock from New York, I don't know about you, but I don't trust a Yankee making my bourbon. It's as simple as that, and that might be short-sighted or whatever, but being from the South and in Tennessee and Kentuckians may even have a greater feeling around that, because I still think that 90% or more of bourbon is still produced in Kentucky. But give me Kentucky, give me Tennessee, give me Indiana, and the rest I'm just suspect about. But tonight's episode, I want to talk about your favorite sourced whiskey, which I think most would agree is MGP. That, for me, that's for sure. MGP, I mean, Bardstown does some, well, I don't know if Bardstown is sourced as much as it is contract distilled. And then George Dickel does a lot of source from Tennessee, and that's kind of a iffy subject. But anyways, I want to talk about, what's your favorite sourced whiskey. For me, it's MGP, and there's a lot of people that source from MGP, And then some of them will continually do it. Some of them will initially do it until they can produce their own juice, like Nelson's Greenbrier out of Nashville, Tennessee. We're sourcing from MGP for their Bell Mead, and now they're transitioning into their Nelson Brothers own juice. And then, I mean, I know you got all kinds out there, but my favorite is none other than Smoke Wagon, and more specifically, Uncut Unfiltered, the best MGP source juice out there. And I think what makes it great, and while I'm not a fan of the stuff in the Midwest and West, Aaron at MGP does a great job sourcing this stuff from Indiana and then aging it further out in the Las Vegas desert heat. And this stuff is freaking fantastic. One of my favorites. So, MGP Uncut Unfiltered in the glass. Well, let me know what's your favorite MGP sourced bourbon. Mine is Smoke Wagon. I'd have to say, I know there's others out there. I'm trying to glance out at the shelves and what else is out there. And I think that this is so freaking fantastic. It overshadows the others to where I can't even remember them. But hey, first off, stay hydrated, my friends. Smoke Wagon, uncut, unfiltered. Ooh. Well, this shout out goes to Ryan because I'm not going to say it tonight, but he knows what I think of this whiskey, both the smell and the palate. Oh. If you want to know, go back and research my Smoke Wagon videos and you'll see what I said. And I reluctantly said it, but I still stand behind it. This is fantastic. Oh. I mean, that spice, that sweetness, that tingling, almond, cherry, vanilla, caramel, more almond. Aaron, you rock it, bro. This is so good. I mean, I cannot think, and let me know, because I cannot think of another. Granted, I don't know, at least 4 or 5, probably more MGP sourced bourbons. Well, I don't even know. They call it Ross and Squibb now, but I'm still going to call it MGP. There's 4 or 5 great ones out there, but I cannot think of anyone, including Bell Mead, that's better than the Smoke Wagon. And I think that's because of Aaron and being in Vegas, aging it further in the Las Vegas, Nevada heat. I mean, more and more that I spend time with this and drinking this, it's becoming one of my favorites. And that's the thing, like, so, you know, 2 of my top that you normally can find on the shelf that are my favorites are a Four Roses small batch select, freaking fantastic for $65, along with the Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof, which I previously mentioned. Now I think it's like around $70 to $75. And then this Smoke Wagon, like, it's so freaking good. Aaron does such a wonderful job. I've loved everything that Smoke Wagon has put out, and I've had some rare and limited, some private stock. The one I did question and downplay is, yeah, don't buy the Smoke Wagon Uncut the Younger. Because it's like 50, 55 bucks. Spend the extra 20 bucks to get this, the Uncut Unfiltered. Because it's Big Brother and not Little Brother, but Tiny Brother compared. I mean, for $20 difference, Tiny Brother versus Big Brother, this is a no-brainer. You know, spend the extra 20 bucks and get the Uncut Unfiltered. I think the Uncut, the Younger was, and I apologize, Aaron, but I think it was just strictly a money grab. It would have been better aged for a couple more years to become Big Brother, but yeah, whatever. But you know, my Four Roses Small Batch Select and my Jack Daniels Single Barrel Proof are two of my easily. You can still obviously find the Four Roses Small Batch Select. Over the last 6 months, the Jack Daniels Single Barrel Proof has become a little harder to find, but it's still worth the hunt. And when you see it, buy it, because it's not old number 7. And but really, what I want to focus on is MGP Source Juice. I cannot think of anything that's better than Smoke Wagon, even their own stuff, which would be George Remus and 8 and Sand. I don't even know if I've opened the 8 and Sand yet. That's their like low level. Irregardless, MGP is known for sourcing whiskey, and for that matter, fantastic whiskey, which I think does a lot of startup and new distilleries somewhat of a disservice, because their stuff is so good. And you got people like Nelson's Greenbrier Distillery just down the road in Nashville that were sourcing from them with their Bellmead product, and until they can get their own stuff up running, which is understandable. But then you're trying to change the profile and the mood, and you go from Bellmead to Nelson's Greenbrier. Although the asterisk to that is that Nelson's Brothers Classic is, I think, awesome for its price point, for what it is. But then, you know, the Reserve, the cask strength or higher proof, at least at this point, does not live up to the Bellmead Reserve. And maybe that changes over the couple of years, but that's the yin and the yang, is that you source from this great distillery to get yourself out there until you can get your stuff aged. And then when you do get your stuff aged, does it equate or under deliver from what you were able to source? And most of the time it under delivers, because MGP does such a great job. But man, Aaron at Smoke Wagon is killing it. This is fantastic. Oh, I mean, I don't know about you, but every time I get a chance, well, within reason, but every time I get a chance, I'm buying a Smoke Wagon Uncut Unfiltered. I mean, I think I got maybe 2 more in the bunker. Probably should get about 2 or 3 more as I continually to drink this. But yeah, go ahead and subscribe, ring that bell, smash that like button, and leave a comment. For me, the most coveted MGP sourced whiskey is Smoke Wagon Uncut Unfiltered. But if you have, if you agree with me, fine. If you don't agree with me, tell me why, tell me what it is. And even if you agree with me, tell me what your number 2 and number 3 is. I don't even know what my number 2 and number 3 is. I think it's because this one is so engulfed me. Like, the best MGP juice is Smoke Wagon Uncut Unfiltered. Hey, let me know how your Bourbon Quest journey is coming. What you've picked up in the last, goddamn, it's August. So what you've picked up in the last 8 months that you've been excited about. What you hope to pick up in the next 4 months. Because for me, like, this year's been somewhat disappointing. I maybe everything's going to come out in the last quarter, but so far for this year, the pickings for really good, high quality, allocated stuff has been slim pickings. And I think everybody is starting to push things to the last quarter. Whereas before, I felt like you could get like a ringless repeal in the second quarter, at least in the third quarter. And well, it ain't out yet. I've yet to seen it. Yeah, I think it's more of this building up of everything's got to come out at one time in the fall, which I don't like. Like, I want some high quality, allocated, limited releases in all 4 quarters. And I don't want it from all of you because I can't afford that. But give me something in January. You know, give me something in March, April, Remus Repeal. Give me something during the hot summer months, Maker's Mark. And then, I mean, granted, I know BTAC and Pappy and Midwinter's Not Dream are all going to come out in the fall, and that's fine. But let's don't stack the deck towards the 4th quarter. Give us a little bit of something the rest of the year, because if you're like me, you're drinking all year long, not just in the 4th quarter. Come on. I don't know. The bourbon game's gotten crazy. Everything's allocated. Well, not everything's allocated, but everything chases the allocated. But that's where I try to give some love to both. The last video with store picks, also with great MGP juice. My favorite obviously being Smoke Wagon. But let me know what your favorites are. Alright, I should wrap this up. Subscribe, ring that bell, smash that like button, leave a comment, let me know. What's your favorite MGP sourced juice? Mine's Smoke Wagon, and it never has disappointed. The Uncut Unfiltered, oh. That's a wrap, yo. Good luck. Hey, as always, my wish for you is that all your Bourbon Quest dreams come true. Haha, that's a wrap, yo. That was so good. Call it the V.